Hi, I'm Cena, owner of SaneSpaces.com and developer of the Time and Space Style Inventory, the TSSI. And I would like to welcome you to the training today on Find Your Flow Formula, understanding your productivity through learning about your time and space style inventory. Today's session will begin in just a moment, but I wanted to give you a little bit of a background about who I am and how I got here. So welcome. I have about 25 years of experience in human resources development, and through that time of consulting and working in corporate and telecommunications, I went through a restructure and took some time off to stay home with my kids. And I launched my original business, SaneSpaces.com, as an organizing company. And when I went into it, I was looking for the assessment tool to help people manage their time and organize their space. And there wasn't one. And that's when I realized that I needed to develop one. And so I did. And I just launched a time and space style inventory earlier this year. And I'm very excited to bring it to entrepreneurs all over the world to help you unlock your keys to productivity. Right now, SaneSpaces.com, we help moms in the early stages of business development from the pre-launch stage through just about the leverage stage who are running their own businesses and juggling the many conflicting tasks that go behind nurturing their growing families. What makes me different than a lot of coaches is that I specifically focus on mompreneurs, moms in business who are trying to do it all, manage the kids, manage their schedule, launch their business, service their clients. And because I've been there, I completely understand that delicate juggling act very well. My clients get extremely specific, step-by-step guidance on how to get systematized, how to get focused, and how to reclaim their time so that they can spend in the way that will pay off the most for them in their business. We follow a proven method of step-by-step instructions to get them moving and get them motivated and marketing in the ways that they need to start to develop an ongoing business and a profitable business. As a result, my clients reclaim their time, usually increase their rates, and create the business and the lifestyle that makes the most sense for them based on their needs and desires. Best of all, working with a mentor coach in the early parts of their businesses, people save so much time and effort and wasted energy by working with somebody who's been there and who knows the way through and who knows how to do the steps that make you most profitable right away. If you'd like to know more about coaching, or if you have a special mompreneur or parentpreneur in your life who might benefit from these ideas, please share my website with them at SaneSpaces.com. Now, without further ado, I want to tell you a little bit about today's session. So I need to share my screen. So just give me one moment. Welcome to the session. Today, we're going to talk specifically about how you can unlock your blocks to productivity through learning more about your time and space style preferences. First of all, I want to focus in on a very powerful quote by a flow master, the person who's done the most research in the idea of what flow is. His name is Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, and the quote is this: "People who learn to control their inner experience will be able to determine the quality of their lives," which is as close as any of us can come to truly being happy. Now, what we want to talk about with productivity is making choices. And today's session is going to specifically focus on flow, how to recognize the flow characteristics in your life and the behaviors that you have that naturally support flow or may stand in the way for you. I'm going to introduce you specifically to the 3 flow steps, which are behaviors and habits that lead to creating ease and comfort in your life and help you restore productivity. and I'm going to introduce you to 6 time style preferences, and we'll see how you measure up and if you can type yourself by the end of the session. So let's define flow. Flow is the natural, effortless unfolding of life in a way that moves us toward wholeness and harmony. Do you ever have those days that just seem to work out, that everything seems to work in your favor and things just show up and you get things done and you're productive and you feel powerful and positive? Well, that is what we're trying to achieve on a daily basis. And would you be surprised to know that sometimes you're standing in your own way? Because when you are not aware of your natural style preferences, what is natural to you, you can spend an awful lot of time beating yourself up, doing the wrong thing, and standing in your own way to productivity. This definition was brought to light in a book called The Power of Flow by Charlene Belitz and Meg Ludstrom. Now let's talk a little bit about the feeling vortex. When you think about flow and the continuum of flow, many times there's a vortex that's pictured, which is like a big circular tornado. And if you can think about it, it's almost as if on the top of the tornado, the top of the funnel, you would have the highest level of experiences, emotional experiences like euphoria. And on the very lowest of the low, you would have things like despondence and anger and hatred. So what we want to do in productivity is we want to get ourselves to stay in the area that is the most effective for us. There's been a lot of work done on peak experiences and matching your unique skills and qualities to challenging situations. This is a little bit different. The Flow Continuum talks about an emotional state, and would you be surprised to find out that you actually have more control over that emotional state than you think? You see, I'm going to introduce you to some ideas that will help you move through these levels of the Flow Continuum. And there are steps you can take and actions you can actually take to move you from different levels of emotion, from calm and comfortable to energized and euphoric, and vice versa. When we have behaviors and habits that we have control over and recognize those, we are much more able to take those behaviors and growth actions when we need to invoke a different response in ourselves. Before we go too deeply, though, I want to tell you a little bit about what styles are and what they are not. We're going to introduce you to 6 style preferences of time management. And here's the thing. As with anything, I'm not sure if you've had experience with communication styles or work styles or management styles or anything else, but as is the case with most, it gives us a point of reference and it gives us some perspective with which we can handle ourselves. So style preferences with the time and space style inventory are not singular or absolute. They're not right or wrong, good or bad, better or worse. They are not independent of each other. In fact, they're very much contingent upon each other. And they're not labels. Although we use words to describe them, we're not aiming to give people a label with them. They're just simply there to help you understand your personal uniqueness. We are going to look at behaviors over time, consistent behaviors over time. And if you choose to take the next step, which is to figure out your very own flow formula and take the assessment tool for yourself, you will figure out through the questions and the answers that you need to answer those questions based on your experience and choices over time. Realize that style preferences, although they're pretty significant to how you are and the habits that you'll have for a lifetime, they are situationally affected. And what that means is that there will be times in your life where your style preferences will be more amped up than other times when you're experiencing periods of stress or tension. Potentially, many people who are launching businesses are under a lot of tension, or perhaps you're going through some actual lifestyle changes, like changes in your marital status, or maybe onboarding older parents, or maybe dealing with grief. Those situations can truly affect your style choice, your choices that you make within your style preference, and they can really hang you up. So if you've been in a place where you've been highly unproductive and highly unorganized, I would always ask the question, is there anything in your life that has happened in the last 6 to 18 months that would indicate a significant change in your situation? And if the case is yes, then of course that's going to affect a little bit in terms of the choices of the choices you're making. So style preferences are unique, consistent, demonstrated over time habits and behaviors that you catch yourself doing ongoingly, and then they can be situationally affected. What you'll get by learning specifically about your style profile is that it will allow you more power and freedom of choice. You'll gain some insight and perspective regarding how you perceive tension with time management style and with your space. Oftentimes, you are unaware of how you might be contributing to your own tension. And this assessment and this inventory will help you determine that. You'll also have information to help you reduce that inner noise and the stress that happens with your self-talk. I've subscribed to the philosophy that we are who we are, and we need to start where we are and accept that as so before we can make any kind of functional changes or systemic changes in our lifestyle. So I believe that when you have more self-knowledge, you can make more informed choices and decisions about your life. And also, because you learn about your style preferences, it will free you to experience more pleasure, fun, and joy and presence. And you hopefully won't be so overdrawn by the tension of not managing your time well. So style effectiveness really boils down to two things. It's really this simple. It's all about you, and it's all about whether you choose to take action or not take action. And there's a very famous quote by a little guy with long ears, and his name was Yoda. And he said, there is either do or not do. There is no try. So what I'd like to do before I introduce you to these topics and these style preferences is to just invite you to take a look at some of the critical decisions and patterns of behavior that have to do with time management. Now, in my style inventory, I refer to these as flow steps. There are three big behaviors and habits and areas where you will function in time. One is how you manage your priorities. The second is how you take care and attend to details. And the third is how you take action. Now, keeping these three quadrants in mind about the approaches that you have with time, what I want you to do as I introduce these style preferences is I want you to look at your typical behaviors. And just like the detective on the screen, I'd like you to determine whether or not this is like you or whether this is not like you. So as we reveal each one of these style preferences and talk about their characteristics and their strengths and their gaps, I want you to say, is that me or not? And let's see if you can type yourself before we finish. Okay, so I'm going to introduce you with this graphic, and then we're going to step through each one of these style preferences one by one. So take a look at the graphic on the screen, and it basically shows you those three behaviors, those three style continuums, how you manage priorities, how you attend to details, and how you take action. And you see they kind of look a little bit like seesaws because on either side of those continua, you will see two different style preferences. So let's look at the first one, how you manage priorities. We're going to focus in on the style preference for time called the hopper style. Hopper and hyperfocus sit on either ends of prioritizing. Behaviors that focus in on setting priorities in your life have to do with prioritization, maintaining your perspective, using your energy efficiently and at the times that are best for you, transitioning from one task to another, balancing requirements with activity, and staying productive. So all of those behaviors, all the choices you make and all the meta decisions, the tiny little decisions on a day in and day out basis that have to do with those tasks have to do with managing priorities. And each of these falls under a style preference. Now, when you take the assessment tool for yourself at the end of the session, if you choose to, you'll find out which style preferences are more dominant. The interesting thing about the style preference tool is that you can score high on what seem to be opposite style preferences. And there's lots of information in the tool and in the membership site to help you interpret that. But it's very possible that you could be a dominant hopper and a very strong hyper focus or vice versa. So let's take a more close look at the hopper style characteristics. So the picture's really cool. It's very indicative of a hopper. It looks like me maybe 15 years ago when I used to wear a suit like that. But the hopper is the style preference that enjoys the most change of pace and variety. And they enjoy feeling busy. They enjoy having many spinning plates at the same time. Some of their shortcomings are they're easily distracted, and distraction can really take a toll on getting things done for them. They also may miss physical cues about time passing. And the one characteristic that's not up there is that oftentimes hoppers have a really tough time completing things. You might find a hopper with 20 or 30 projects going at one time. And they are aware of the details of the projects, and they might be aware of what's going on, but they have sometimes a very difficult time completing. The growth actions that are most helpful for hoppers are the following: to slow down. Hoppers do really, really well when they create some routine in their life so that they take care of the maintenance pieces. You see, hoppers love distraction because they love adrenaline. And so oftentimes they will let distractions and interruptions happen for them because they love the brain candy and the variance and the variety that's offered in an interruption. The growth action is to create structure and some routine that make their days have more structure so that they don't lose track of time and they don't allow things to derail them so easily. The best thing a hopper can do is really focus in on their top 3 daily and sit down every morning or the night before and identify the 3 things that are the most critical and most important for them to complete in that day. Again, when you have a hopper, they have many tasks at once, many projects going at once. So those goals may not even be completion goals, but they should be small mini goals leading to the bigger projects. Again, they need to break things up so that they can do little bits and pieces, have successes, and move on and carry on. Timers and automatic reminder systems really, really help hoppers, especially with scheduling. And another growth action is to allow and try to deal with frustration, anxiety, and boredom by creating structure and change in your day. I had a hopper client once who owned his own business, and one of the things that he loved to do just for the variety and change of pace was pick himself up and move to a different room in the house. And he may move very fluidly through his home. He worked out of his home, but he may move very fluidly through 3, 4, 5 different places in the house at any given time. Now, this caused a little bit of a ruckus because he would leave a trail all over the house, and he and his wife both worked together in small businesses, and he became a little bit unruly and difficult to keep connected. But what we did is we set up a few different office locations for him with supplies so that he always had what he needed and he could stay productive as he moved. In that way, we shifted his environment a little bit, but he was truly a hopper, and you cannot fight that hopper characteristic of wanting to get up and get a change and change of pace. So it's better to set yourself up for success than to constantly face failure, distraction, interruption, and backlighting. Okay, let's take a look at the other side of the spectrum, and that's the hyper-focus style preference. Hyper-focused style preference people are absorbed by details, and these are the folks that can get so sucked into a project that they completely lose track of time. Sometimes they're great at details, and they're very they're the people that will tell you and be able to share all the details of a project, things that you didn't even notice possibly. But they sometimes miss the cues of how fast time passes. And sometimes hyper-focused people, because of their very clear and hyper ability to focus, they may be very hard to transition. So I'm thinking specifically about my son, who gets completely into a project, and it's very, very difficult for him to like put that project on hold and move into another project. So perhaps this is you, perhaps these are people that you work with, but transitioning can be tough, and missing cues of time passing often happens for hyper-focused people. So the growth actions for these folks are to always backwards plan, which means take your deadline and then backward plan. What do I have to have done by a week before? What do I have to have done by 2 weeks before? What do I have to have done by 3 weeks before? So they basically create their start times with backward planning. And that works really well for people with hyperfocus. The one gap is they have to start and work their plan. Oftentimes they'll work their plan, but they won't implement it. They'll plan it, but they won't implement it. Another thing that hyperfocused people, another growth action, is to make sure that they really focus on prioritizing often. Because of this tendency to get sucked into a project and lose track of time, they may have to reprioritize things a lot. And so therefore, a strategy that would work on a daily basis is to set priorities daily. It's very good for hyper-focused people, and for most people, anybody who struggles with time management, it's very good to set up external alarms and reminders to pull people out of whatever they're focused on and to keep them on track. I have reminders on my system and on my computer that keep me on track. And also setting mini goals, as I had explained with the backward planning. So that's hyper and hyper-focus. They're on either sides of the continuum for managing priorities. The second time continuum that we look at in terms of behaviors is how you attend to details. Now, attending to details is made up of a lot of critical skills: maintaining your perspective, focusing on the high payoff activities, securing support to help you manage details, and understanding that there are variances in people's behavior and approaches, and that's okay. Because it's important for you to accept those differences between how one person approaches work and how another one approaches work. Details are very important, but there can be different ways to attend to them. So let's focus on the style preference big picture. A big picture style characteristic preferences are that they are very big on ideas, lots and lots of flowing ideas, but sometimes very light on follow through. In fact, a big picture person is classic for sitting in a meeting and rattling off 100 different ideas and then not following up on one of them, where the other people in the meeting might be like, wait a minute, I thought we were working on that. So they tend to be impatient with details. And this can cause some conflict, because when you have lots of ideas and people get enrolled in your ideas, if you're not paying attention to the details, lots of stuff can fall through the cracks if you're a big picture style preference. Often they like to work and move and act quickly, and for some reason, big picture people resist routine. They like that spontaneity, so they resist the routine, but the routine does help them. Growth actions that are most helpful to get these people productive and back in flow are to create some of those simple, basic routines. Simple, basic stuff that they can be consistent with, but things that will help them, like writing things down or coming up with a system for managing time or managing projects. Simple and basic. Those things sometimes are missing for big picture people, and then the details drop out. Another suggestion for people to get more productive is to categorize and organize their information with labels in large categories. Big picture people do better with larger categories rather than really detailed categories. And I always encourage big picture people to partner up with people who are detail oriented, because you will need help with follow-up and you will need help with implementation when you have your grand big ideas. So it's really important to find people who can help support you and your brilliant ideas. I know on my team with my virtual staff and my assistants, I always look for my own gaps, and I am a big picture. I'm a very dominant big picture. I do have a few Perfectionist Plus characteristics, but my tendency is to be big picture, and my tendency is to want other people to follow up on the details and keep me clean and clear. So I try to find people who fill in my gaps. That's big picture. Let's take a look at the Perfectionist Plus style preference. The characteristics for Perfectionist Plus time management style are that they believe, it's very true, perfectionists. I want you to also try to uncouple the definition of perfectionist from Perfectionist Plus, but the style characteristics are that they believe everything can be done well, and everything can be done single-handedly by them well. Now, the hidden meaning there is nobody can do it as well as I can do it. And sometimes they have difficulty understanding the difference between high standards and superhuman behavior. Oftentimes, Perfectionist Plus people are really hard on themselves and give themselves very little room for error, which can stand in their way of productivity. They can spend 80% of the time perfecting 3 or 4% of something, and that can really, really get in the way of their productivity. The other thing that may be a shortcoming for Perfectionist Plus style preference is that they can find it hard to say no, which starts them in this endless cycle of having too many things on their plate that they can focus on the way they like to. So one of the best growth actions is to actually say no for a Perfectionist Plus style preference. Another thing is to really focus on the bottom line impact. Because this need to get it right, a lot of effort is expended, and sometimes a lot of time is wasted on the wrong stuff. So for Perfectionist Plus, their biggest growth action to create more productivity in their lifestyle and in their work is to really check the bottom line impact. And that means, is my effort going to pay off here? Or is this okay? Is it good enough? So that next bullet is distinguish between high and low priority activities, and then figure out what's good enough. What is good enough? What standards are you willing to lighten so that you can get more done? Saying no, as we said before. And then also the Perfectionist Plus would really do well to find trusted resources to delegate to. So partnering up with people that you respect and that may be better at certain things that you have gaps in, so that you can hand those over without fear and to be assured that people would help you with them. So that's the Perfectionist Plus style. Okay, we're going to move on to the third continuum, and that is how you take action. Now, the skills that are involved here are self-motivation, taking initiative, recognizing opportunities when they present themselves in time, considering the consequences of the different things that you work on, contingency planning, which means planning for when things break down, and recognizing when you need help. How you take action has two different style preferences on either side of the continuum. The first is impulsive, and the second is cliffhanger. So let's take a look at the impulsive time style preference. Well, it goes without saying that the impulsive person is much more of an act, ready, aim than anything else. They initiate action without much forethought. In fact, they tend to be junkies when it comes to adrenaline. They bore easily, and therefore they really enjoy the rush of instant gratification. They prefer spontaneity over scheduling, and sometimes have a hard time kind of planning forward and holding a goal that might be far away in place as they work toward it. Many times impulsive people are addicted to right now results. And so that's great and that's fine, and they're in action, but sometimes action doesn't equal productive action. And so if you feel like you're resonating with this style specifically, here are some growth actions to help you. When you are focusing on doing your work and prioritizing your work, make sure you keep perspective. Make sure that you look at the full complement of what's going on. And remember that if you make an impulsive decision right now, what are the potential consequences that may result of that, may result from that might not be in alignment with your productivity goals? One of the other things impulsive people do well with is reminders and posting objectives, intentions, and goals, writing them down and posting them up. There's been a lot of research done about the difference between people who write their goals down and people who don't, and the huge, huge difference of putting intention on paper and actually having it be more real. I do not know the numbers because I'm not a numbers person, but it's an astronomical difference. I think it's something like 80% of people who write their goals down are more apt to complete their goals than those who don't. It's a huge difference. So with impulsive style preference, one of the things that you really want to make sure you allow for is variety, choice, and spontaneity in your day. So wherever you can be intentional about that and create options for your impulsiveness to show up and be fulfilled. The final time style preference is the cliffhanger. And the cliffhanger style characteristics are the critical one is that they believe that they only can perform under pressure. So they believe that high pressure really helps them succeed. And that's kind of upside down thinking, although there have been studies done to say that a lot of people with a style preference really do have an increase in the hormones they need to have their brains function a little bit better. So sometimes that certainly pressures and deadlines affect everybody. And when you have a deadline, you tend to be more focused on getting things done. But one of the big critical gaps for cliffhangers is they often estimate time inaccurately. Everything takes them 15 minutes when that's not true. You know, they say a shower and getting ready takes them 15 minutes. It probably is closer to 45 minutes to an hour. Or preparing a meal, or preparing a report, or checking their email, or all of these things, they typically land on some quadrant of time and say it's going to take me 15 minutes. And I say with cliffhangers, you better triple that, and then you'll be close. But that oftentimes doesn't necessarily plan for slippage or breakdown. So oftentimes cliffhangers also feel like they need to be inspired to take action, and they do respond to the pressure of a deadline. So some of the growth actions that will really help cliffhangers are to monitor their time and to actually track how long things take and how long activities take, and then keep that in mind and even put it on the chart and put it up on the wall so that you know that, no, indeed, when you go to prepare yourself to go to work, it is not 15 minutes, it's actually 40 minutes. And so you need to plan to be up and out of bed with 40 minutes before you need to leave. Schedule a time to start projects versus a time just to complete projects. This is, again, like that backwards planning technique that we talked about before. Also, you want to move up your deadlines. I mean, these oftentimes cliffhangers are the people that people say, no, the party's actually starting at 7 because they know that they're not going to be there on time and they're going to be an hour late. So they just tell them the world kind of normalizes around this style preference often and corrects for the cliffhanger if it's a chronic cliffhanger. So there are some black holes regarding procrastination, but realize that the upside down thinking really comes in thinking that you can only do work when you're under pressure. So where are you? Where do you think you fall? Do you think you have several dominant areas? Do you think that there are certain style preferences that resonate more with you? Can you type yourself? Well, I'm going to invite you to consider that your style preference has everything to do with taking action and not taking action. And there's a model on the screen right now that I'd like you to look at, and that is the free choice model. Now, this model is all about spending your time wisely and staying productive. And again, like I started the presentation and said, there's two choices, to take action or to take no action. And when we cross-reference that taking action with another aspect, which is things over which you have control and things over which you have no control, then you can begin to see how you can intentionally take step-by-step actions to increase your level of flow and change the way you're feeling emotionally and your productivity any given day. So let's take a look at the model. First, we'll start in the bottom left quadrant. When you take no action on things you cannot control, you're actually letting go, and that's a very good thing. It's very positive for you to let go of the things you have no control over. As my son says, this is my problem. This is not my problem. And so he has very clearly distinguished what he has control over and what he doesn't, and he uses that statement quite often. Then, if you go across that quadrant and you look at the bottom right quadrant, it says giving up. And that is things over which you take no action that you can control. When you take no action over things you can control, then you're giving up. And that's a choice, and that's fine if that's what you choose. But realize that you are consciously taking no action over something you have control over. Okay, let's go to the top left, and that is taking action over things you have no control, which is spinning your wheels. It's a waste of time. So when you consistently take action over stuff that you have no control over, it's not going to work. It's not going to help. Where you want to get is you want to get to that top right quadrant that consistently allows you to take action over the things you have control and move yourself forward. And that's the reason that I created these styles and the style preferences and the growth actions. All of the growth actions that I presented in this workshop are things you have control over. And you can decide when you will and when you won't take action and make those choices. So today we covered flow and how to recognize the characteristics and behaviors that will support your natural style preferences. We looked at the 3 flow steps that have to do with time management and the ways that you can take those steps to restore flow and enhance your productivity. I introduced you to my 6 time style preferences, and now I'm going to make a special offer just for you for listening and for participating in this workshop. I'd like to invite you over to my website at sanespaces.com/PRM/TSSI free. And what you'll see there is that you will see a little video that explains the time and space style inventory. And you can take that inventory for yourself today. Now, I want to explain the difference. What you're looking at on the screen, there's going to be 2 buttons on that page. One button is a try it button, which is a fake survey. It's a sample, but it shows you the type of information you'll get. The other button is a buy it button. And if you're interested in taking me up on my special offer today of the 25% discount, then you need to select the buy it now option, and you will get a $10 discount on this particular inventory and this assessment tool. You need to input the promo code Accelerate, and this promo code will be valid through the end of 2014. So you have plenty of time to do this. And what will happen is you will not only get your very own flow report, which will be indicative of you and your style preferences, but you will also get access to the TSSI membership hub, which contains tons of information, checklists, templates, worksheets, helpful tips, not only for the time style preferences, but also for your organizing and space style preferences. So you'll get the report, and it's complete. It's a complete report. There's no holds barred. This promo code will be good through the end of this year, and I invite you to buy it and take the survey for yourself. The real survey is the one that will be available under the Buy It Now button. The false survey, the fake survey, the sample survey is the one that's available under the Try It Now button. I also want to invite you to come on over to Pinterest. If this has piqued your interest at all about how to better manage your time and get more productive, join me over on Pinterest at pinterest.com/Cena Block. And you'll see, I took a screenshot there for you, but you'll see that each one of the style preferences has a board. And there's a lot of different suggestions for you, different ideas or services, products, ways to manage your time, ways to organize your space for each one of those 12 style preferences. So I invite you to join me. If you're not a pinner or if you've never done it before, please hook up with me in any other one of these social media platforms. At this point, I have a very active blog. I'd love to see you over there. We can connect on LinkedIn, Facebook, Pinterest, or on Twitter. Realize that there's tons of free resources on my website. And again, if I can be of service to you in the future, please let me know. Don't forget your promo and your special discount code to take the assessment tool and the survey and find out your own flow formula. Now, if you're a coach, or if you are an organizer, or if you are in business for yourself, or perhaps you have a staff of people that might benefit from learning how to become more productive and more organized in their time and space, please let me know. It's been a pleasure sharing this information with you, and I look forward to seeing you over at sanespace.com or in any of the social media connections. Thanks so much.